All right, welcome everybody to the Dr. Nobody podcast. Today I have a very, very good friend of mine, Dr. Marvin Andujar. We've been friends, I think, over 10 years now, went to school together. And yeah, it's going to be a great episode. So I'm going to go ahead because I think he's going to have plenty to say about what he's done and what he does. So I'm just going to pass it over to him and let him just speak. Go ahead, Marvin.
Yeah, good to be here. Thank you for inviting me. This is actually exciting stuff. I'm Dr. Marvin Andujar. I'm currently an assistant professor at the University of South Florida in Tampa, Florida. I'm in the computer science and engineering department. And my research area is on brain-computer interfaces. So I lead the research lab. I call it the Neuro-Machine Interaction Lab. So I have a team of PhD students, some masters, some undergrads that we work on how to control drones with the human brain. How can we build video games where people can interact with them with the brain, and also in immersive environments like virtual reality, augmented reality. And yeah, glad to be here so we can talk more about this and tell you more about some of the secrets of Dr. Nobody.
Yeah. Oh boy. That, well, that was a lot. And yeah, let's not do that. um, that was a lot, and I think it was a lot because there's the stuff that you do, and I know because we're friends and we talk about it. But the stuff you do, there's people that have never heard about it. So, can you break down each component of your research and what you do in lab? Like, if I was a 5-year-old.
Yes, definitely. To a 5-year-old, it's going to be hard. Even college students will be like, "What are you talking about?" But yes, but the idea behind it of my work is pretty much we look at every machine that exists, and I'm going to use drones as an example. As drones is a new tech that you see that everywhere in terms of drone racing, drone light shows being done in the Olympics. And then the other side of this technology is brain devices, what we call them brain computer interfaces or even neurotechnologies. So these devices they can even look like a headphone that you just put on top of your head. You get to think of a muscle movement. Let's say you imagine yourself walking forward, and then the drum will move forward. You imagine yourself, let's say, walking to the left, and the drum will walk to the left. We'll move, fly to the left. So that's pretty much what, in a nutshell, what we study, right? So how can we make that more efficient? How can we control other machines that not just drones, like neuroprosthetics, wheelchairs? I love drones. That's why we show drones in my lab. Now also is virtual reality environments. So like Oculus Rift, created by the company Facebook, or now known as Meta. Um, and of course, we had the whole NFTs that is part of VR. So, and we always wonder, okay, now that all these virtual reality environments exist and technology, how can we have people interact with these environments with their brain data, right? Is it by controlling environment, like their avatar with their brain, or even have the environment that they're in change based on how they feel, right? So if I'm wearing a brain computer interface and I'm feeling upset or sad, the environment would probably change to an environment that's more a happy environment, so I can feel more relaxed and happy, right? So that's the way so we can use brain computer interfaces, and pretty much in a nutshell what we study and how can we incorporate BCIs as brain computer interfaces in different technologies, in different environments.
For someone who doesn't know that much of your field, that sounds terrifying. And all I can think of is Will Smith's movie I, Robot, and
Oh yeah.
like and and just seeing your drones taking over. Is a dumb question, but is there a possibility? Do you work with AI technology with these, and can these drones be weaponized in such a way?
Any technology can always be weaponized. It's always a valid
Mm.
concern that people have. I say that one of the most dangerous technologies out there right now that people don't realize is the phone, smartphones.
Mm.
in terms of from a privacy perspective, right? So you can be tracked. Anyone can listen to your conversations without you noticing. And we share so much information online that you never know who's reading this information. You hope it's your friends and family, but it's always more than that. And when it comes to drones, of course, they can definitely be weaponized and can be a challenge for people. But that's where like you mentioned, AI, artificial intelligence, where these drones should be able to be programmed to be able to fly within constraints based on the environment where they're flying, also what the humans want them to do at the same time. People always, when it comes to BCI, people always think about the Matrix, right? Especially that new
Mm.
Matrix
Mhm.
movie is coming out.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so or Pacific Rim, right? So any brain related, and now you see these even TV shows like The Flash or Supergirl, where they have brain devices, right? And those actually exist in real life. Those are devices that they use in those TV shows, and it can be terrifying for people. They start thinking about the Terminator when they see drones, but
Yeah.
and that's something what I call the Hollywood effect, right? That Hollywood effect that I remember there was even a very bad movie where they have a drone that has a ghost within the drone, and the drone hunt people. Right? I'm like, see, this is why we cannot have this type of movies. First of all, I'm like, what do you mean a ghost got into a drone and started hunting people? Right? So, but then people get scared, right? So, but it's part of the Hollywood effect, and it's something that we definitely have to. We researchers have to always educate people, saying, from an ethics point of view, from an applicability, usability point of view, there are definitely always a pros and cons to the technologies that we create. We always try to go with the pros, right, from the good side of things. But the whole purpose is to improve people's daily lives.
Yeah, definitely sounds like it has a lot of applications. I know I worked with virtual reality systems and burn victims and how much that benefited them, just the way the mapping of the brain works and
Mm-hmm.
distracting. I learned very early on in Boy Scouts that when my Eagle Scouts would punch me on the thigh when I had a cramp, they always told me you can only feel one pain at a time. And it was so true. I didn't know how true it was, but it was true. That's why virtual reality systems and these drone, it helps these patients, and the applications are so endless. But beyond that, actually before that, Dr. Andujar, I don't think you were born wanting to work with drones. What's your story? How did you get into this? Like, it doesn't seem such a thing that someone would be thinking about at an early age.
So when I was in my mom's belly, I had a drone within me already. So,
Well,
so
that's concerning.
yeah, right. So how did that happen? Um,
Yeah.
I had no idea when I was a kid or even in college that I was going to work with drones. I mean, you and I went to college together, right? So we did our undergrads in the same university, and I never talked about drones when
Mm-mm, no.
we're at that time. So even brain computer interfaces, I started talking about that more towards the end of my undergrad. But yeah, so drones didn't even exist like that when we were both undergrads, right? So they started to come up, but they weren't even mentioned. The drone racing didn't even exist. Um, when we were undergrads, I was back to when we graduated 2007, 2006. No, I'm sorry. No, actually, 2007, 12, 2011. We're not that old.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah, please.
we started 2007. Yeah.
That's
So,
right.
but yeah. So, I mean, when I was an undergrad, I got into research as a freshman, just like you did. Um, as we both got into the magnet program, and that's where we both met. And I remember we both were living in the same apartment at Kane University in Union, New Jersey. And I remember I slammed the door on you the first day. Yeah.
Yeah, you're a big jerk. Yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't on purpose. I was like, yeah, I got super smash. Yeah, so I closed the door.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Yeah,
think
but
the listeners need to hear a little bit before that, because now they're just gonna think you're just so mean.
yeah, no. So
Do,
the
do,
thing is, I didn't know you back then, right? So my roommate, who's David Eric Lafontaine, which is a good friend of ours as well. I already knew him. We both knew each other from another program at Kane. And we had a video game, of course, the Super Smash back in Wii, if I'm not mistaken. And of course, you told you from afar, you say, "Hey, you guys got Super Smash here?" I'm like, "Yes," but I didn't realize that I closed the door on you, and that you proceeded like, wow, it was like you just closed the door on me like that. But I just closed the
Yeah.
door because I guess we're just about to make some noise and I didn't want to disturb anybody. But then you knock on the door like, "Hey, can I come in and play?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure." And that's
And
pretty
then
much.
that's I kicked all your butts in the game, so that's why you're like, "Yeah, that's right.
That's why
I showed you what it was like."
I wanted to slam the door again after that, but yeah,
Yeah,
that
and
couldn't
that's how
happen.
also you knew you were like, "You know what? I'm gonna work on drones and mine and brain stuff."
Yeah, yeah, that's what I'm
That's the
like. Yeah,
moment.
I cannot be a pro gamer. Oh, the pro gaming didn't exist like that before
It did
either.
not, no.
Even streaming. But yeah, so even then, right? So I wasn't thinking about drones. I didn't work on brain computer interfaces. It was until 2010 that I went to Clemson University as a for a summer research program for undergraduates. And that's when I met. Actually, that's when I started working under my PhD advisor. His name is Dr. Juan Gilbert. He's a professor now at University of Florida in Gainesville. As an undergrad, I saw this topic, right? So he sent this list of topics of that we could choose from before I went to Clemson. And then one of them was brain computer interfaces. I was like, what in the world is that? Again, I had no idea what did that mean. So I Googled that and I saw it was very medical and things like that. I'm like, all right. I was interested. I was always interested about the human brain. Always was curious about it because it's the strongest organ that we have, and we barely know how to use it. But I love technology more, so that's why I decided to do computer science. Right. So that was my bachelor. My bachelor was in computer science and mathematics, double major. I hated biology. I still do.
Hey, hey, hey. Watch yourself.
Yeah, the fact that I had to sit there, read books, and just memorize stuff, it was not my forte. So I was like, I love tech. I'm going to do computer science. I was curious about the brain. Then I see brain computer interfaces. I'm like, that sounds interesting. So once I get to Clemson, and they start talking about brain computer interfaces, and the PhD students who's in charge of this project start saying, well, BCI, they start moving more outside the medical field. This is the right time to get into it. I was like, I think I found what I want to do as a researcher, right? Because I knew I wanted to go and do a PhD already, right after my undergrad. And then I decided to do human computer interaction because it was related to VR, AR, and every other new tech out there. And the whole purpose of human computer interaction is pretty much how can we make technology more useful for people, user friendly, right? So, and that user experience keyword came out from like Apple and Google having like working with all these technologies. So, but I still needed a specific area within HCI, human computer interaction, to be able to work that I wanted to work on. So I saw brain computer interfaces, started working on it, and then they showed me that I'm able to control machines with my brain. I was just like, whoa. I was like, what do you mean? You're telling me that I'm able to do what now? And then I tried it myself. I was just like, I fell in love with this field, right? So it was just like, this is my calling. I
Hmm.
mean, it's a very difficult area, right? So it's something that there's not many universities out there offering brain computer interface classes for computer science, at least in the non medical side of the field. But I started reading a lot of research papers and working to that. But again, I'm talking about BCI, right? I have not said anything about drones at all. Of course, I graduated from undergrad. I go to Clemson University to start my PhD. Because my advisor called me. Funny thing, he called me 2011, December 2011, and he said, "Marvin, what are you doing next summer?" I'm like, well, right now I'm applying for graduate school. I applied to Clemson too. So I'm hoping to be as a PhD student somewhere, or else I'm going to be doing some working in the summer. Like, okay, why don't you start in the summer with me as a PhD student and work on brain computer interfaces? I'm like, oh, yeah, for sure. I was actually visiting my father in Tampa at the time, and that would actually be a funny correlation later. Again, I was in Tampa visiting my father. I'm a professor now at the University of South Florida, located in Tampa. My goal was never to live in Tampa. I just want to leave that there on how
Yeah.
life just goes so crazy, right? So that was never my goal. So I'm in New Jersey, moved to South Carolina, Clemson, South Carolina. I started working on brain computer interfaces. The fall of that 2012, there's a colleague of mine called Dr. Chris Crawford. He's now an assistant professor at University of Alabama, and I knew he had worked on drones as an undergrad. Pretty much some drone, and pretty much working kinematics and things like that, and obstacle avoidance and other type of drone work. So I approached him like, "Hey, Chris, what are you working on?" He's like, "No, really, not much. Just some tasks that our advisor gave me." I'm like, "Okay, man. I heard that you worked with drones before as an undergrad." It's like, "Yeah, I did this and that and stuff." And then I said, "What do you do?" I'm like, "Oh, I work on brain computer interfaces." And then I told them, "I what if we partner up and work on brain control drones? I want to control drones with the human brain." Then his face was so confused and he looked at me. He literally paused for like a second and literally started asking himself, what in the world is Marvin smoking? Like, what is he drinking around here? I want some of that. So that's what he was thinking about. And I was like, yeah, this is actually real. We can actually control machines with the brain. And I showed him the science behind it, how it works and things like that. And he just, and pretty much we both started working on this area together, brain control drones. And pretty much we combined both of what we have been learning, both drones, BCI, and we convinced our advisor to work. We wanted to work on this. And afterward, a few years later, once we moved to University of Florida in Gainesville, because my advisor got that position there, we did the brain drone race, which was the world's first brain drone race ever done in history. And yeah, that's how pretty much I got into pretty much that area.
That's so world first. And what how does that even happen? Like there were I feel like there were drones around, but no one just put two and two together.
Well, yeah. So again, there are not many. So when you think about brain computer interfaces, many people work mainly in the medical side of things, right? So it's
Mhm.
either either helping somebody with with a prosthetic, okay, let's control a neuroprosthetic or a wheelchair. There have been, of course, simulations, and it has been mainly in the medical side of the area. So and then so you needed people from outside medicine to start working on brain computer interfaces, and also started working on drones and know also about computer science, right? So and that's where it's important to have a very diverse team of people with different backgrounds and knowledge, because if you only have the same people from the same background, let's say, okay, we all do medicine here, then brand new ideas will not come in. Same thing if you have only people from computer science or let's say bioengineering or so on, you will always hear the same exact ideas. And that's pretty much how the crazy ideas happen. And my colleague and I were pretty much were thinking, we need something new with brain control drones. We know we can make it happen. We can work in the algorithm side of things, but we need something exciting. We wanted to find a way also to make our work more visible, which at the same time will be teaching people that this stuff is real and there's no science fiction. So, and drone racing started at the time, right? So we can race drones, like the Drone Racing League, and pretty much with remote controls and things like that. And there were simulations, not as many as we have today, of course, but there were some. And we were like, what if we do a brain drone race where people race drones with their brains? So the controller is your brain and it's hands free. You sit there, you concentrate, and that drone is going to move. And that's going to be the race. And that's how pretty much it happened. We started working on it. We faced a lot of adversity. A lot. It was, I don't know
Why? Because it
how.
was a weird thought. It's a weird thing that they just didn't understand or scared. What was it?
It's mainly the skepticism of the fear of drones. You mentioned that in the beginning, right? So every time people hear drones, they start thinking about, oh, you're talking about military drones. And I'm like, no, military drones cost millions of dollars and they don't fit in a building. That's number one. So let's put that out there. And every time we go to any buildings within the university to see if we can host our race, we all got no, 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 no. Why not? Because no, right? So, and this is the advice I give people. You go ask 100 people if you can make something happen to see if they can support you. 99, you're going to get 99 no's. At times, you're going to get, if you ask 100 people, you're going to get 100 no's. That means you have to go ask the 101, 102. You have to keep going. Number two, like you said, I said, this is the world's first brain drain race. People had no idea what I was talking about. So which that means is you're asking a lot of people, many times don't even have a bachelor's degree, right? And the hardest thought that they have that day is, what am I going to eat? So the reason why I say that is because many people cannot really comprehend what you're trying to do. It's out of the norm. So they're just waiting for 5 o'clock to hit so they can go home to their families, which is totally okay. So they are not thinking about, how can I host a brain drone race? Mm-hmm. And that's where you have to adapt. You have to be patient. Trust me, my patience is not my strongest soft skill. So it has gotten better. I
personally know that one.
It definitely has gotten better now than before. But trust me when I say that you have to be extremely patient. And the fact that I wasn't the only one, you need a good colleague as well, a good team. We had a good team that we were persistent. Right. So if when it's by yourself, it becomes more difficult because then you start doubting yourself. Your motivation leaves your body, goes away, and you feel less motivated. But when you have a good team, you have a good colleague, it helps a lot to be able to make it happen. But until one person said, which was in the Women's Studies building at University of Florida, said, "That sounds so cool. You can use our facilities to host this race." I was like, "Oh, you're the GOAT. You're the MVP of this race already. You're the MVP. You're the real MVP, and you're not even competing." So, and that was just the adversity of finding a location, right? So, and then we have adversity to be able to find the prices, to be able to fund it, to go through the rules and all the regulations within the university. But we also have a lot of support from the College of Engineering at the university at the time, the department, of course. And after we were to pretty much barely sleep for months, trying to figure out how we're going to make this event happen, because again, it has never been done before. It helped that we had funding. I can talk more about that later. Is we got funding from Intel, which we acquired from a meeting with a former CEO of Intel. It helped a lot that at least we also had the funding. So there are people who believe in your idea and believe in what you do. We just had to find them, right? And we did, right? So after we asked 1 million people, we did find them. And that's how we were to host the world's first brain drain race, where the Associated Press was there and covered it. The funny thing about that, they sent me an email 2 days before, 2 or 3 days before the race. And this was the email went. Guys, we're gonna be honest. We don't believe in this. Keep in mind, we did a segment with Fox News, a demo and everything, and that's what we sent them a bit. And they're like, we saw the videos, we saw the media release, but nowadays that stuff can be faked. And they even have the audacity to say, we went to MIT, we went to Harvard, and we talked to them to make sure the stuff is real. Keep in mind, this is the world's first brain drain race, meaning that even MIT and Harvard had never done this before, right? So I'm like, why are you even going there? They haven't never done this before. I mean, they know about the science behind it. So they would tell you, yeah, it's possible to control machines with your brain. So what else do you want? So my response was, which was the funniest thing ever. So my advisor was like, that's the best response I have ever seen you write in email. He was like, I pretty much said, well, if you think about it, when planes came out for the first time, people were skeptical about planes, right? They pretty much they didn't think it was real that you're able to actually fly, because we humans cannot fly at all, right? We can't unless you get into a plane and be able to fly to a different location. So it's the same thing with this technology, this race, brain control drone, brain drone racing. We are in the same situation with when planes came out for the first time. When cars came out for the first time, people didn't believe in cars. They believe in their own horses. They said, there's nothing wrong with my horse. What do I need a car for? That's too expensive. So that's only for rich people, right? So the only way you're able to see this stuff works is if you come here on Saturday and try out yourself. Their response was, sounds good to see you on Saturday. So they tried it. Yeah. So they tried themselves and they recorded themselves doing it. They're like, oh, this stuff is real. I'm like, you think? So, yes. And then after that, I was showcased in more than 600 media outlets worldwide, talking about New York Times, Associated Press, Fox News, all the pretty much, even Hispanic news like Univision, Telemundo for the Latin people. I remember it was even they were in Germany. It pretty much we got emails from everywhere, even Japanese. A school from a university from Japan emailed us as well, saying we would like to be part of something like this. This is very innovative. So it worked out. It definitely.
This is incredible. This is a really, I mean, there's so much to, I mean, I should have you back and just talking about this because there's so much to unpack. How has this affected you after, has this increased your funding? So funding to your lab, meaning you get money to do more research. Have you found more collaborators, people that help you? Are you just smothered by how famous you are now or anything like that?
I definitely hate the amount of emails I get every single day. I always joke around. I want to have just an assistant just to do my emails. It helped in many different ways. One, I did a race before I joined my current position as a professor, right? So the fact that I'm able to, as a PhD student, show that I'm able to help the university be as so visible in a good way, right? So they're good visibility, and of course, they always say press is good press either way, especially for universities. But there's also the negative side of things. But it helped. It helped with that part of course, of finding a job. The fact that one of the questions that came up in my interviews was, how can you help the university become more visible? I'm like, okay, this is what I did. Brandon Race, 600 media outlets worldwide, New York Times, etc. I can do the same at the university if I join as a professor, right? So I was able to speak with credentials. The funding I got from Intel, I was able to go back to the company in Silicon Valley and say, this is what we did with your money. Oh, by the way, do you see that corner over there? That's that Intel flag that we handed. So you got that visibility as well. Thank you for the funding. So and it also helped. I did a second Brandon race here in Tampa, which was also the world's first Brandon race under the Brandon Racing League, which is a nonprofit that I created with my colleague to see how can we host more Brandon races around. And it helped also to be able to show that, well, I did this before in 2016. I'm able to do this again in a larger scale, which we were able to do that in a larger scale. We had like hundreds of people show up around Tampa area. A company called Get FPV, which they sell first-person view drones. We're able to show up and do also like a YouTube live of the race. So we started showing magazines, Discovery Channel with the documentary. So it helped with the visibility of our work, and that's what we wanted to do, right? To be able to show people worldwide that this type of technology is possible, it's real, it's not just science fiction. Although still people think I'm speaking about a movie every time I'm saying about this. So it definitely helped. In terms of funding for my lab, I have been in pictures of my Brandon race have been used by the National Science Foundation in Washington, D.C. for the presentations. I was a National Science Foundation graduate research fellow, so one of their fellows was able to do that. So they're able to show the kind of work that I did, and it has helped also with now that some people in the agency knows who I am, so I'm able to get some extra funding when I apply for research grants, of course. So yeah, so it definitely helps to do events that never been done before and keep scaling from there.
What I want to understand, and you mentioned it before, so I just want the listeners to hear it more, because
Mm-hmm,
there's episodes that we talk about it, and it is the focus on the theme of the podcast.
mm-hmm.
How much mentoring did you get from people? Was there, a single person that really guided you in your life, or did you do it on your own, or did you do your own research, or dabble here and there of stuff? But first let's start with there. Like, was there a mentor or advisors that really helped you get to where you are now, so successful?
Definitely. There's always people that touch your life in different ways. Of course, it always starts with your parents, right? I say my parents because, especially my mom, she was very strict since I was a kid, indicating that education was extremely important. And if I ever want to have a better life, I need to study, right? And this is coming from my parents that they didn't even graduate from high school, from a third world country, right? I was born in the Dominican Republic, so it's back in the days, it was even the opportunities were not even as good as it is today. But she had that mindset of you need to hustle, you need to study. Afterwards, of course, we had, at the university, you have people that believe in you. Uh, Even if you haven't proven yourself, they want you to succeed, right? I mentioned that if you talk to 100 people, most likely you get 99 people who will not pretty much support you at all. But you get one or two that will. We had, of course, the director of the McNair program. Her name is Wendy Alvarado. She supported us, right? If we needed funding to go to conferences, she was always there listening, and if we had any issues, right? She was a good director, a good friend to us. She was able to advise us about life, pretty much what we needed to do. And then, of course, I had more specific mentors like Dr. Patricia Monreale. She's the chair of the computer science department at Kane University. They're calling another position, so I'm just showing the chair. So she might be another position she has now. And of course, Dr. George Shank. So he's the dean now of the College of Science over there at Kane. So they were able to sit with me one-on-one and tell me, and pretty much work with me a plan of what kind of classes are you going to take. What's your goal? When I didn't know what to research, I knew I wanted to be a researcher, but I didn't know what to research on. Dr. Morales helped me and sent me different areas. Like, oh, you may want to think about this, think about that. And I was able to go to conferences with the help with the McNair program and find that area that I was able to talk to different people. I was talking to PhD students. I was talking to faculty at conferences to find what I wanted to do within the research. Then, of course, when I started pursuing my PhD, my advisor, Dr. Juan Gilbert, he, of course, is still a mentor even today. He would text me randomly, how's life? Or he will send me a random link like, oh, you may want to look into this, right? So there's always mentors and advisors. So this is what I recommend everyone. And I'm going to repeat this again. Just because you ask 100 people, 1,000 people to give you an advice or mentor you, they say no, or they just say that I don't have the time, or whatever it is that they say, that's fine. You'll find somebody who will help you out. You need someone who will be able to actually give you some advice. Now, if you find mentors who are always busy, but they still find at least 30 minutes of their time to meet with you, make sure you buy them a good cup of coffee from Starbucks from time to time. Because if you think about it, it's time, we never get time back, right? So if they dedicate 30 minutes of the time, that's 30 minutes they can dedicate with the family or in a meeting or working towards like some sort of towards their promotion or whatever project they're working on. But they're taking 30 minutes of their time to meet with you so they can give you some advice or mentor you. And that's pretty precious. So that's why
Mhm.
I always thank my mentors, even today. I always try to keep them around in a good way. And if in any way I can be able to help, sometimes my boss will ask me for recommendation letters when he's applying for awards and stuff. And I'll make sure that I submit those letters on time. So
Yeah,
because
you
he
give
was
back.
exactly. So it comes around, right? I needed them, and I still need them at times, but they also will need me at times as well. And it's always good to give back to those. So they definitely play a good role in terms of my success, right? So it's always good to surround yourself with those type of mentors that will be there for you at any time. So I highly recommend you to find them, and also keep in mind of something. If if you complain, because this is a typical complaint, if somebody complains, says, "Well, my mentor never has time for me." I tried to meet with that person, but he says that he's available in the next 2 weeks, and he always has an hour or 30 minutes to meet with me. Again, that's like if you find a mentor that's always free, that's a terrible mentor.
Why is that?
I say that's a terrible because that means that that person probably has not done too much in their lives, or probably don't have too much going on, right? So they may be a good mentor for one thing, but I want my mentors to be busy. I want my mentors to tell me, Marvin, I cannot meet with you today or next week because I'm traveling. I'm in Washington D.C. meeting with all these researchers in the National Science Foundation or the National Institute of Health or any other important meeting, or I'm at Google or I'm at Apple or Microsoft meeting, be able to establish new connections. I'm able to meet with you in 2 weeks to discuss or whatever. Or, oh, I don't have 20 minutes, but I do have 5, 10 minutes I can talk to you on the phone real quick. I want those type of mentors. Why? Because when I ask them about their experience of what the reason why they couldn't meet with me, I can learn from those experiences in the case I'm able to have the same opportunity that they have.
Mhm.
Yeah, so that's why I like my mentors to be busy. Not just busy because doing just random work, because busy because they're always doing great things. So and that's but you always find good mentors for different purposes, and you always need to kind of find what is it that you need them for, right? Because not every mentor can give you the same advice or be good for you because it's not a good match. Maybe they have good advice, but what you're looking for is not what, or the way they approach the advice is not how you uh, would like to it benefit you. So that's my advice for people finding mentors and how to approach them.
So this is my leading question. Do you feel like a lot of the stuff you've learned from those mentors you are emanating to the mentees you have now, because you have a lab, you have PhD
Mm-hmm.
students and you have other students that are around you that you're now responsible for, and basically they're responsible for their success and eventually their livelihood. How has mentorship to you affecting has affected them now, and how you emanate that mentorship to them?
Yeah, so pretty much the same model that my PhD advisor had when I was in his lab. I pretty much using a very similar model in my lab. And so something that he always did with us was he was always very, very honest and would tell us how things work. And would teach us also the politics behind things. I'm not saying the politics about in Washington, D.C. I'm saying the academic politics. And you'll be surprised
Mhm.
how involved that could be. In life, you need to learn how to play the game, right? So it's a game, right? So it's a set of rules and there's obstacles, there are adversity, and you need to learn how to come up with strategies to be able to go through those adversities to be able to reach your goal. So, and that's what I teach my PhD students. I try to teach them when something happens and they say, well, I didn't get this paper accepted. I was depressed all day. I'm like, why? 99% of the time you try to do something, you're going to fail. Right. So we had to get used to failing. And that's what I try to teach my PhD. That's how it works. That's how it works. So what do? We take the feedback that we get, the good ones. With the bad ones, we throw them to the trash. The good ones, we use them. We change the paper, we improve it, and then we submit to another venue. And we'll find a home for it. When they get stressed, oh my God, I'm about to do my dissertation defense or my proposal. I don't know what to expect from the committee. That's fine. I know what I'm going to be expecting from the committee. I'm not the one going to be presenting, but this is the type of question they may ask you. Right. So I do spend one-on-one meetings with them. When they need me, they know that I'm always busy. Right. So, but when they need me, I say, hey, if you need me, don't hesitate to ask to talk to me. Right. So I will tell you, I may not have time today, but I may have time to say Thursday. At this time, let's talk. What's going on? And I will give them advice on how to pretty much face the adversity that they're actually confronting. I like to have that one-on-one. I think having PhD students just be a machine and you never give them advice, it doesn't make any sense to me. I do enjoy mentoring my students. That's one of the. But let me be clear though. I enjoy mentoring my students, but I also tell them they need to produce. They need to put up the time, right? Because I hate when people waste my time. So if I talk to you and I give you mentorship, I advise you. If you send me a message at 10 p.m. At night and I respond to you at 10:30 p.m. at night, you better be working and making things happen. But if you're not producing, you're just complaining, you don't talk to me, you don't communicate with me. And if I ask you how are things and you pretty much say, yeah, things are well, I don't get anything back from you, then don't be surprised if I refuse to just, be able to dedicate more time to you. Right. So that's, you kind of have to also work for yourself and be able to succeed. You cannot expect people to just give you stuff. And that's the model that my PhD advisor uses. That's the model that my undergrad advisor used as well when I was at Kane. I mean, they will give me certain aids here and they're like, oh, look into this link, look into this book. But they didn't read the book for me. They didn't go like, yeah, go to the specific paragraph and that's the answer in that paragraph. They're like, no, this book is actually pretty good. You should check it out. Oh, these research papers are actually, you may want to look into that. And let me know what you find. Right. So that has to be clear that the mentors and advisors are not there to do the work for you. They are there to actually guide you, to get you in the path so you can achieve the goal you're trying to achieve.
That's really good advice. I really love that. That's really well said. And I think that's really important for people to hear and understand because, one, people take advantage of the situations and, but personally for me, I not take advantage in the term of in a negative way, but take advantage of your advisor, like you're saying, like you got to be patient with them, but use them, use your sources, your abilities to go and reach out to people. Because if you don't, if you're struggling, it's really on you. There's plenty of opportunity now with the internet, and I make it sound like we're 40 years old. We're not, but now with the advent of like how well built the internet is and a lot of good resources that people can use and find, you got to use it, man. You got to use
Indeed.
it.
And people are resources to you, right? It's not just your computer as a resource, but they're also a resource to you. And this is the part that many people make the mistake. If you ask them, "Oh, have you talked to such and such, your this mentor or advisor?" You'll be surprised how many people will tell you, "No, I haven't. He or she has not reached out to me to talk to me or to meet with me." So I'm like, wait, is your mentor the one who needs mentoring, or are you the one who needs mentoring? I'm confused. Like it's fine if they reach out to you. like once in a while. But keep in mind, they are busy. They have the personal life, they have the professional life. They probably have to do million things. They have a lot of unlimited amount of tasks to do. Why do you think? And you're not the only student that they mentor. So why do you think they had to reach out to you all the time to meet with you? I used to bother my undergrad advisor all the time. I'm surprised they didn't kick me out of their office. I would just knock on their door. Hey, I have a question. If they cannot meet with me, that's fine. I'll come back later. My PhD advisor, I would bother him. Well, not as much. There would be at times I wouldn't see him, but I would bother him too because I don't. I was like, I need their feedback, right? They're my resource, and they have other things to think about, and I need to make sure they notice me and they know who I am. The same thing you and I did at the when we were at the magnet program at Kent University. We bothered that director all the time. She told me that still until today. She's like, "You were my most annoying student because you always were asking for stuff." But now she will look at that folder and she's like, "Oh, you were actually our most productive student." I'm like, "Yes, that's why I was bothering you all the time." And look at what I'm doing now. So I never waited, and I always advise people: never wait for people to come to you and help you. That doesn't make any sense. Be proactive. Seek for the help. They cannot help you today. That's fine. Can you help me tomorrow? No. Can you help me next month? I think next month I have 45 minutes. Great. In the meantime, I'll try to make some progress in whatever it is I'm trying to do here. I'll do my own due diligence. I'll go and look for stuff. And that's what I did as well. I tried to research stuff by myself, but then I talked to my mentors, advisors to see what they think and making sure that I will end up where I am today.
Nice. Now, this is I have a couple more questions before we finish.
Mm-hmm.
And I think one of the most important ones that I want to ask is, how do you juggle all these responsibilities that you have? I feel like it's a lot. You know, you're famous, you know, in a relative sense. Not Kim Kardashian famous,
No,
but
that's a
you're
different
almost
level of
there.
fame. It's a different fame.
You do your research, you're collaborating, you have your nonprofit. Like, how do you juggle all those things and still keep your own personal life and look so young?
um, Pray every single night. That's the only way to do it.
Yeah.
So something that I did when I was an undergrad, and you did this a lot too, was we always had a busy schedule, right? So we both were not born from money. We had to have part-time jobs to be able to make some money, to pay rent, to pay for food, pay transportation. Um, so besides that, to be able to do double major like I was doing and do research and things like that. So it helped shape my time management skills. When I became a PhD student, again, when you're pursuing a PhD, as you already know, Dr. Nobody, a PhD, if it will be easy, everybody will have one, right? So it's less than 1% of the population on Earth that have a PhD. They can say, you know, I'm a doctor because I have a PhD. I'm an expert in XYZ, right? So it's not so much about being smart that makes you a PhD. Of course, you need to have the skills and all these technical and soft skills and things like that. But you also need to have the perseverance to make it happen. And it was a lot of late nights to be able to complete the PhD and be able to just keep in mind that adversity happens. I mean, I remember when I was undergrad when I got mugged. I don't know if you recall that.
Yeah, I
And
remember that.
I didn't let that get to me. I was like, it's part of life. I'm not the only person or the first person to get mugged in New Jersey. um, yeah, so it's part of, you know, the culture. And
Yeah.
yeah, so and then of course as a grad student, when I remember I was sent to the ER just like a month before my dissertation defense, and I had a million tasks to do, right? So when that stuff happens to you, like life happens and all these things happens, you have to all this to do you that you have, and then you have all the expectations that people have on you, because that's something else too. The more you do, the more people expect from you.
Yes. Hmm.
It is if it is your boss, your advisor, your mentor, your significant other, your friends, your family. You say you're going to host the world's first brain drone race. They're like, oh, that's awesome. Okay, what's next now? That only lasts a day or a few days of celebration, but what's next after that? So you always, and then that means that 10 more tasks is added to you as well. So how do you, so it wasn't just like I just learned, oh, well, I got a PhD and I now I'm able to handle a million things at once. It was just a constant improvement over time since I was an undergrad. That was taking a million classes, trying to have a part-time job, trying to find opportunities to go to conferences and summer programs and so on. So I already had that type of schedule when I was even younger. I went to graduate school. Nothing surprised me when I was doing my PhD. Many students experience that culture shock, like, "Oh my God, wait, I had to be awake until 5 in the morning." Yeah, so that's how it is at times, right? So that didn't surprise me at all. So right, I would be awake at 5, 6 in the morning, still doing stuff, and because also I was passionate about what I was working on, I wanted to see what would happen. And now I'm a professor. Something I do a lot is also to delegate a lot of what I do. Can I work on all the projects that I have in my research lab now? Definitely not. I'm only one person. And like you said, I need to have all these projects in my research lab. I pretty much direct them. I meet with my PhD students every week. They give me the report. I give feedback. I tell them, oh, that might work, that might not work. Um, let's see what happens here. Oh, by the way, we need to submit this paper to this conference, make sure that we're on track and so on. Then I need to teach classes. And I manage a TA or two at times. And then also, like you say, I have my personal life. So I have personal goals. Like that could be, I recommend people to have personal goals like investing or buying their own home. Knowing this market is crazy, but in 2021, but all the personal goals that people say, I would like to have 2 or 3 kids one day, and so and that's a personal goal that people establish in their life. So you kind of need to like do that time management. What happens when you get depressed, tired, and you feel that everything's going wrong? This is the motto I live by. I live life where I say 99% of the things I try is not going to work out. If I had that mindset, I will, and when things actually work out, I actually will be happier than thinking that everything I do, everything I try has to work out every single time. And that's how people get depressed. They get anxious and they're like, oh, I don't really know how to handle this situation, right? You need to try it out. Always try, take the risk, and always keep in mind that 99% of the time it's going to be a no, it's going to be a fail. And you work towards breaking that barrier where you get that yes, and it's going to succeed, right? So you always need to always have that mentality. So, but yeah, so that's how pretty much it has been a build up. So that's why I don't get overwhelmed. I mean, I'm still human, of course. So at some point, it's
Yeah.
like, do I get really tired all the time? I feel like I wish I can just put a Red Bull as an IV in my arm, but that definitely is not recommended. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah. So, but yes, you just need to learn about the mindset and take care of you. And I learned from entrepreneurs. They're very busy people. I read books from very successful people. How did they succeed? How can a CEO of a 500 Fortune company can manage hundreds of thousands of people still have a personal life, and also be as famous and busy as they are. So I try to learn from people by reading books, by asking them questions if I have the opportunity to. And that's how I'm able to manage different things all the time and take care of your health too. That's something I didn't do before, and definitely do that way more now.
Yeah, that thanks for sharing that. That's really important. You actually also came into the territory of my question I asked all my interviewees. What are five things, up to five things? Is that I realize that some people have a hard time getting to five. Five things that are so essential or have been essential in your life in your career, and I think you've really covered all. Actually more than five throughout this interview. But are there any additional ones that you're like, that's a definite one that I need to say?
Oh man, definitely. I think I need to repeat. Patience is key, right? And again, I'm a very impatient person. It's good that I mentioned that I'm extremely impatient because I'm literally saying patience is a really good thing to have. And because like I said before, if you apply to 99 jobs, 100 jobs, 99 probably would be no, right? You're not going to get it, right? So, and then you're looking for that 100 to get. So that means you need to be patient. If you're impatient, then that means that may lead for you to giving up. And that's what you need to do. The second one, never give up, ever give up. The biggest regret you're going to have when you grow older, when you're like 65, 70, if we make it there, hopefully, and it's when you look back and you had the regret that you didn't even try. That would be my biggest regret. I would like to try it out, try things out. And if I fail, great, I failed and learned on how to know something, how it wouldn't work. Try to come up with a different strategy. So definitely never giving up, persevere. Don't take things personal. The reason why I say that is because, again, if somebody doesn't have time for you at the time, it doesn't mean there's something wrong with you. Bad things happen to everyone, every single person. And most likely, Dr. Nobody, you have been in that position where you ask yourself, why me? Why nobody else?
Yeah,
Like, I'm a good
all the
person. Yeah, like, oh, yeah, I know. Like, you wake up, like, why me? It's like,
time.
right? We ask ourselves, like, why me? Like, why is that happening to me? Like, I'm a good person. Try to do good all the time. Bad stuff happens to everyone, right? So we are not the center of our own bubble or universe, right? So everyone, bad things happen to everybody. Now, even successful people, right? So very rich people, also bad things happen to them now or before. It's just that many times we don't see it at times. They just share mainly the success, especially in social media. So that's something that we need to learn how to like always live with that mindset of, life is a game, right? I'm not saying that it's a joke. I'm saying it's like if you categorize a game, is pretty much a simulation with a set of rules where you have obstacles, where you need to overcome these obstacles and for you to be able to beat the game. Life, if you think about it, life is the same way. Just that in the physical environment, there are rules established by humans from back in the days or even now. There are obstacles life throws at you, which you need those obstacles for you to grow as a human being and become better at what you do and become more savvy and be able to solve problems. So once you grow older, you don't just sit in your chair and you don't have any idea how to tackle life. You need adversity. You need the obstacles. Don't take things personal. Make sure you always never give up. Take those risks. Don't listen to that. I call it that voice in your head called fear. Fear is the biggest enemy of any human being, right? So every time you want to try something, and then you feel like, what if this doesn't work out? What if I'm not good enough? What are people going to think? Right? So it's like, what people are going to think? That leads to my next one. I mean, I know this one is controversial, but I'm like, who cares what people think? Don't like, honestly, who cares? If you really are the type of person who cares about what people think, great. This is what you can do. Draw a circle on a piece of paper and add the people in that circle that you care what they say. If they're not in that circle, you should not care at all what that random person in the street said about you. You should have that, right? So, because the thing is, if you always listen to what somebody else say, if I say, well, I remember I say, oh, I want to get my PhD. Well, Amazon sent me an email that would like to interview me when I was an undergrad. I remember my stepfather said, you never said no to an interview. You never said no to a potential job. He doesn't have a PhD. He only graduated from high school and started working. He doesn't even have a bachelor's degree. He doesn't understand how this stuff works. He doesn't even know how to use technology well. Imagine if I would have listened to him taking a job and I wouldn't have done my PhD. I wouldn't have accomplished even half of what I have done now. So again, you need to listen to the right people. So, I mean, at least in a nutshell, that's the main things that people should always live by. Is set that mindset right, right? Take risk. Always try to improve yourself physically, mentally. We don't live forever. There's a deadline out there we don't know about. So always improve yourself, achieve your goals. Else you're gonna have that regret when you're older, saying, "Oh, I wish I could have done X, Y, and Z. I didn't do it just because I was afraid."
Thank you for sharing with that. That's those are really great values to live by, and it really encompasses a lot of points in people's lives and different aspects of their lives. Because the goal of this podcast is not just for teenagers or for adults. This is for everyone to hear, and how important is different aspects of your life. So thanks for sharing. With one last question,
Mm-hmm.
what and you already gave me the best moment. I feel like I really want to I want our listeners to hear from our interviewees here at the Dr. Nobody podcast that you're human too, just like you said. What's the worst moment you think you've had in your career or in your life that you can share with us?
Oh man, can I say that every single day? Can I say that's just I said 99% of the time?
Nice.
I want to say I have a worst one that I can. I think it's just a collection of things, right? So the way I see the worst moments in life or the bad moments in life is at the moment they suck, right? So you feel terrible, you feel sad, you feel confused on like why do these things happen? Even 20, 30 years later, you can ask yourself, I still don't know why did that moment happen. But at many times those things happen, you look back and say, that happened for, and now I see why that happens because now I know how to work on this or become a better person, right? So, and I can give you, I guess I can get a little bit personal, I guess, here and go back to when I was sent to the ER a month before my dissertation defense. I mean, I woke up with a massive pain in my chest. So I did not know what was happening. So I was sent to the ER. And of course, I called the ambulance, sent to the ER. That was the first time that I ever been in a hospital like that. That again, this was a month before my dissertation defense, which means I shouldn't be in a hospital. I should be writing my dissertation. And I couldn't postpone my dissertation defense date because I had the job already lined up. So if I wouldn't complete my PhD, my salary wouldn't have been the same. Or pretty much, they were waiting for me. So they needed that paperwork saying, hey, this person got his PhD, he can start as a professor. So at the time, I was like, why is this happening to me now? Why didn't it happen years ago? But things work out. A year later, I got the same symptom, even worse. This time it just kept happening. And this time I was sent to the ER twice when I was a professor teaching That was, of course, this happened pre-COVID times. And of course, I had to go through surgery and couldn't even finish the semester as a professor that semester. So I say that those are my worst times. And then at the time, of course, when I was in pain and just laying there, where that's when you start asking questions like, man, I'm young. Why is this thing happening to me? It makes no sense. Like, of course, I kind of made some bad choices in my food habit when I was an undergrad, but I was also broke. So I needed to, I was just eating whatever was in the streets.
Yeah.
So yeah, whatever we were to find. Like, oh, I have $5. What can I buy with $5 that I can eat? Right. So,
Five White Castles.
right, exactly. So, and I remember my first week of undergrad. I don't think if you know this, as a freshman, I didn't have money to take the train to go to school. That was the first time I started living by myself. And I have my food was chips and Coke because that's like $2 right there. Every single day, that was my
Nice.
lunch. I only ate like once a day. So eventually that catch up to you, right? So when you get into your 30s and so, but yeah, so I pretty much, I feel that that's my worst moment in life because I never, I couldn't see it at the time. Like, why am I going through this? Why am I going through the surgery and so on? But honestly, now that I look back, I'm glad it happened. And this is why I say that. If it was going to happen regardless in my lifetime, when I'm 60, 50, whenever, at the current age that I have, my body can handle those type of events. So if I go through 2 or 3 surgeries, my body can handle it. At 70 or 80, that may not be the case. Right. Number 2, this happened before COVID. I didn't happen in COVID during COVID times in 2020. So when I started thinking about that in 2020, I said, if I would have been sent to the ER now, the way things were in 2020, I don't know how that would have worked out. Right? Because at the time they were in the hospital by yourself. They wouldn't even allow people to be there with you. Right. So that's where I say that sometimes you look backwards and you can say things happen for a reason at a specific time. Right. So I'm glad it happened before 2020. And that's why I always say that when bad things happen to you, which they happen all the time and they will still happen, you should sit back and say, you know what, this is part of life. It's an obstacle. I'll go through it. And I wasn't by myself, so I had people able to take care of me and so it worked out. Career wise, again, I feel the worst is always the fact that I hate when people tell me no. I would say, I guess that's the worst part is like when people tell me, no, that's not going to happen. And they ask like, how come? Right. So they're like, no, I don't think it's going to happen. They don't have a reason. They didn't even try to make things happen. They just want to tell you no because they don't know how to make it happen. And they don't even want to try. That annoys me all the time, but that's something that I realized that just part of the process. Every time you try to do something big, you just have to pretty much go around it, find somebody else who has some sense and that will actually support your ideas and what you do. But in terms of career, I would say I have had good mentors and advisors and all the time that nothing really bad has happened in that way. I always try to push forward. But yeah.
Yeah, you don't let it sounds like thanks for sharing your story. Sounds like you don't let adversity hold you down. That's the key point. I feel like people let adversity as a crutch and use that as an excuse to try to move forward, but that's not the right way to do it.
Exactly. Adversity is always going to happen. And I always I tell my students, it's like, it's just bound to happen. It's hard to predict at times. It's a personal adversity or career adversity. And if you want to rant to a friend of yours, like open a bottle of wine and just rant to somebody, do that. That's fine. Get it out of your system. And what you cannot do is give up and just blame other people or something else or karma or whatever just because, and just stop doing it. Right? You do always need to keep trying. And it could be that you just need to come up with a different strategy for you to be able to succeed, and go around specific people that just are in the middle. So always don't let adversity and fear get in the way.
Agreed. Um, well, thank you, Dr. Andujar, for your time and your stories and a lot of words of wisdom. I really appreciate that. I just want to let the listeners know that you can reach out to Dr. Andujar on his social medias if you have any questions or want to learn more. But I really appreciate your time and you being here in this interview. And are there any parting words of wisdom that you'd like to leave with our listeners?
No, really, this was fun to be able to share with everyone a little bit of the story. It's always good to share the story. So if you're going through a very bad moment right now in your life, just keep in mind that it's just keep trying, and you'll see how things will turn around for sure. And it won't happen overnight. It will take years. You just need to keep trying and keep working and network and build your credentials and get better playing this game we call life.
Yeah, agreed. Thank you very much, Marvin, for your time and your story. Listeners, I hope you gained plenty of insights today. This is the beginning of becoming a someone, but specifically the someone you always wanted to be. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and if you did, please do give me a like, review, and subscribe. And of course, visit our website, thedrnobodypodcast.com, where we turned nobodies to somebodies. Talk to you all very soon.